In this lesson we're going to develop your game that you started creating last week, and we're going to look by creating a backdrop. We're going to create a second sprite that has random movements, a sprite that you're going to chase, and then we're going to start looking at something called broadcasts, and we'll talk more about that later. Before we move forward too much with our Scratch knowledge, let's just have a little bit of knowledge recall from previously. Last week we looked at the horizontal axis, and you need to be able to name what that's called. And we also use this bit of code here from last week, and you're going to need to try and explain what this bit of code here is doing. And then from a previous unit, how do you know where a flowchart begins? And you also need to think back to the start of the year and try and recall what makes a strong password. So you need to pause the video and answer these questions in your ePortfolio. Okay, we have our knowledge recall or knowledge organizer information here, and this week we're going to look at the stage. So it's the area that can be seen when Scratch is ran, when we're running the program, so that's the stage. We're going to use hide and show later on, make a sprite disappear, make it reappear, and remember a sprite is the object in Scratch. So we start off with the Scratch the cat, but I'd like you to use your own objects here, and each object can have its own commands, and that's what we're going to give today to some of our objects that we create. So we're going to learn how to create a backdrop, we're going to animate that backdrop, and then we're going to create a sprite with random movements. So we'll start off with the backdrop. You need to create 3 backdrops. You're going to create a welcome screen, a game over screen, and then a game screen and a game over screen. So welcome, a level 1, and then a game over. And that's what we're looking to produce today. So what we're looking then is to create these different levels. So we've got welcome screen, a game screen, and a game over screen. And this is what I'm going to produce and show you how we actually create this. So let's have a look at our work. What I have here is the work that we're looking at. I'm going to see what's going on. I've lost my version of Scratch. There we go. So first of all, my code for my sprite. This is what we had last week. My up, down, left and right. I've got the extension work here where I've got animation to my sprite from this. If you did the extension work last week, you might already have this. I'm now going to start today's lesson by looking at the backdrop. So I've clicked on backdrop. I'm not working on the sprite here, I'm not working on any of these rockets or any of my other sprites. I need to click on the stage with the backdrop. And it's really important that you have clicked this and we're working on the stage, and you'll see the backdrop is in this top left corner. So I'm just going to click backdrops, and I'm actually going to create a new backdrop. So here I'm going to paint a new backdrop, and I'm just going to in here start by putting a block of color, and I'm going to choose, as mine's a space theme, and this depends what you're creating, but I'm just going to choose a block of black. So I'm painting the back here, and I find it's a little bit tricky, but you can paint it in sections. It doesn't matter, the joins aren't going to show. So there I've got a black backdrop to my game. I'm going to get rid of my original backdrop. I don't want. So now I've got my backdrop, and I'm just going to call this welcome. So this is the first part of my game. I'm just going to stop my game running at the moment. I can still see my rocket is firing away, so I'm just going to stop that. So here's my stage. I've got just a plain background, and I'm now going to just draw a planet. So I'm looking for a purple planet that I'm just going to draw in here. Obviously you can create your own stage, whatever theme you're creating in your game. I'm now just going to click off that. I'm going to create some more circles, This time just add a different colour, and I'm just going to create some little dots. I'm just going to, this is where you see my artwork isn't very good. So making a planet. At the moment it looks like a smiley face. Okay, it's starting to look a little bit more planet-like now. Okay, I think that'll do me for my planet. So this is my planet, and this is my welcome screen. So I might just want to put a message in here, and I'm looking at the colour of the writing. I'm going to go for something a little bit more spacey maybe. That'll do me. So just putting in here, welcome to Space Chase. That's my name of my game, where my rocket is going to chase around trying to catch the aliens. So welcome to Space Chase. I can change the size of the writing, edit this how I want if I had a bit more time. So I'm happy with my first screen. I can now right click on my welcome, and I can duplicate this, and I'm just going to change the name to level 1, and I can go in and select the writing, and maybe I just want to change the writing here to level 1, and I can move that with the select tool. I might just want to move that over into the corner a little bit more. That suits me there. So that's my level 1, and I also might want to just duplicate this, and this time I might just want to create my game over, and again I can just move that to where it wants to be moved. Just a little bit of positioning here, and just drag that where I actually want it. So your choice how that looks. I've now got my welcome screen, I've got my level 1, and I've got my game over. So I've created my 3 different costumes. Then in the code, what I need to look at is the code of this. I need to say when the green arrow clicked, so it's at the start of my game, I need to go to looks, and I need to switch backdrop to welcome, so that when I press green it goes to my welcome game. What I might want to do, I'm just going to stop that, is and under the control I might just want to leave my welcome screen on for possibly 3 seconds, approximately 3, and then looks, I can change the look of my backdrop, so switch backdrop to level 1. Just need to put that after the wait. So just change that to level 1. So now when I run my game, it's going to say welcome to Space Chase. After 3 seconds it swaps to level 1. We'll worry about the game over later on, but this is where you're going to add the game over in eventually. I'm now going to show you how to create an animation for part of your stage, part of your background, to make the game look a little bit more realistic. Now I'm actually going to create another sprite. The sprite will appear in here. But to save time, I've actually already created this. So I'm going to upload a sprite that I've already made. And I'll show you how I do this. There we go. So it should just import my sprite. So here is my Earth that I've already created. And I've already got the code required to make my game, or my Earth, animated. So what I did, I drew my Earth, which is just a blue circle, and then I painted some green bits on it to make it look like a world. Let's move it into there a little bit more. Here's England and Ireland. What I then did, I used a bit of code here. So I used a forever again, so it's going to keep repeating my code forever when I click the green arrow. And I've told it to turn 1 degree, rotate 1 degree left. Wait a quarter of a second. Then because it's in a forever loop, it's just going to keep looping round and it's going to keep turning 1 degree. The other bit of code I've got here is at the start of the game, I've told it to hide. Then I've told it to wait 3 seconds and then to show. And that's just because I didn't want it to be on my welcome screen at the start of the game. I only wanted it to be there when I start level 1. That's why I've got the wait 3 seconds. If you remember when we created the welcome, we kept the welcome screen on for 3 seconds and then we moved to level 1 after 3 seconds. So I drew my planet. I've put a turn in there. I've told it to hide and then appear after 3 seconds. And when I click the green flag, what should happen is there's no Earth. After 3 seconds, my Earth appears and slowly rotates round. Just gives a little bit of animation. So I've actually created that as a sprite rather than on the backdrop. I've created it here. So it's just part of it. And I have got a slight issue where my rocket goes behind my Earth. So what you can do is just in the look section here, you can go to this here on the looks. So I've selected my Earth. And what I'm just going to do is add this extra block of code in here. And this snaps that in. I'm going to tell my Earth to go to the back layer. So now when I press the green arrow, what will happen is my Earth will go behind my rocket and therefore we can still see my rocket throughout the game. I'm now going to show you how to create your next sprite that's going to be part of your game. And you can use a sprite from scratch itself. I'm going to use one that I drew previously. So I'm just going to upload a sprite. I'm going to upload my alien. I've already drawn this and here he is, my alien. And here's the code I created for my alien. And I'm going to talk you through what this bit of code does. There's an odd little bit of code hiding in there. So just a little bit of debugging. I'm going to delete that bit. So at the start of my game, I want my alien to hide. So I don't want him to be there. Remember, we've got the welcome bit, that welcome splash screen to start with. I'm going to wait 3 seconds, then my alien is going to appear. And I've got a forever, and I want him to move 2 steps and pick random between -10 and 10 degrees, and if on edge bounce. So when I run this, we'll just have a look at what he does, and I'll explain this bit of code and show you how to build it up. So it's not quite working. It seems to have frozen a second. Let's just see if we can get that going again. There we go. So when I've clicked the green arrow, my alien is moving around. He's taking 2 steps. He's then picking a random number between -10 and 10 degrees, and then he's moving another 2 steps. I've got if on the edge bounce. So if he does find the edge of the screen, he's just going to bounce back the other direction. So I'm just going to stop that. Let's have a look again what's happening. So I've built this up. The hide and the show are easy enough to find in the purple blocks and the looks. Forever move 2 steps. Now this bit here, I've had to build this block myself. So I've just show you how I created this block. I went to sensing, motion, and I've chosen a turn 15 degrees. But I don't want it to always turn 15 degrees. I want it to have a little bit of random movement to it. So what I've got in here, just put it back in where it should be. I've got a pick random -10 to 10 degrees. So that's in my operators. So here I've got a pick random 1 to 10. So I can just drag that in and change this to a -10 to 10 degrees. And then I can move this whole block into my turn 15 degrees bit. Just where the 15 is, I can drop that in instead. So it's replaced the number. So turn between -10 and 10 degrees. So I can just delete those two blocks. And now, hopefully when I run it, my alien's hidden for 3 seconds. It's then going to appear and it's forever looping round here. Looking at that, just make that a little bit bigger so you can see the bit of code that I'm referring to. So I hope that makes sense. I'm now looking for you to add in a sprite that's going to move automatically on its own, and the idea is that my rocket ship chases after the sprite and catches it. Hopefully you've added evidence of your sprite randomly moving around the screen. Certainly the code, if you add that to your ePortfolio before moving on. The next stage is to look at something called broadcast and receive. Now this is a difficult concept to understand. It's a little bit tricky, so you just need to be patient. Persevere with this and it will work. You just need to get an understanding of what's happening. So with a broadcast and receive, we have one sprite sending a message, which is the broadcast, and then we have a different sprite receiving and hearing that message. So one sprite sends, which is the broadcast, one sprite hears that message, which is the receives. So we're going to show what actually happens in the game now. So what I've got here is my rocket. We need to start it on the one that's sending the message, and my rocket is going to send a message every time it catches the alien, every time it catches the sprite. And I want this to happen right from the start of the game. So I've brought a when green flag is clicked, and I want it to constantly look for this. So what I'm now looking for is under control. I've got a forever loop. Let me just pull that forever loop in. There we go. Forever. So at the start of the game, forever, and what I'm looking for is an if statement. So this is to do with computing. We've got if this is happening, then we do something else. So I need to find an if statement. Under control, I've got an if, and we can see here's a gap, then. So what I'm just pulling in is this if then block in. So forever, if something happens, and what I want to happen is I need to, on my sensing, it's when it's touching the alien. So when my rocket sprite is touching my alien. This is why it's important to name your sprites so we know what we're looking for. So I'm looking for if touching, this top one here, and I'm just pulling that in. Before I put it in the block, I've just changed in the drop down, and your different sprites should be labelled here. So I've got alien. If touching alien, I can just drop that into that block there. So like a jigsaw puzzle, just piecing together. So if touching alien, then I want something to happen. And what I'm going to have happen is under the event, I'm going to broadcast. So I'm just going to drag a broadcast in. It's got message 1. So what I'm going to do is just create a new message, and I'm going to call this add point, because that's what I want my message to do in effect. So I've clicked OK. So if touching alien, then broadcast add point, and then I'm just going to put in there under control, I want a wait 1 second. So it's forever doing that. And I've left a second in that if I'm still touching the alien, I don't want my score, everything to go up really quickly. I need a little gap in there. Now the score's not going to change at the moment, so I've not changed the score, not created a score, but it's going to send a message, and all it's doing is shouting out add point every time the rocket touches the alien. It will just shout it out. It broadcasts that message. So that's when the rocket touches the alien. I now need to go onto the alien, and on the alien, what I'm looking to do is the controls, the commands for what happens when the alien hears that broadcast message. So again, what I'm looking now is when I receive. So I'm looking for my control. When I receive, it should be an under event, sorry. When I receive. Now it's already got add point in there because that's the only message I've created, but you might have to look for it here if you haven't already created it. When I receive this, what I'm going to get it to do, I'm just going to move this code here. In fact, I'm going to copy that. When I receive add point, I'm going to tell it to hide. Let's make a new one to be easier. So I want my alien to disappear for a split second. In fact, I'm going to get it to disappear for 2 seconds. So I need to go to control. It's hiding. I'm going to wait for 2 seconds. And then I'm going to tell it to reappear. It's going to then show. So let me just see what happens now. In fact, I'm going to move this block of code over to this. Let's leave it where it was. Just see what happens. I might need to duplicate this over. So at the start of the game, wait 3 seconds, then it appears. When I catch up with the alien, it's hidden. After 3 seconds, it reappears. So that's working exactly as I want it to work now, and I'm having to chase it to find out where it's actually going to. So that is my broadcast and receive. When my rocket catches the alien, it broadcasts a message, add point, and then when my alien receives that add point message, it hides, wait 2 seconds before reappearing. So that's how a broadcast and receive work. You need to add that into your game and then show evidence in your ePortfolio.